Good evening and welcome to the Guilderland Central School District's Board of Education meeting. Today is August 13th. Can everyone please silence their cell phones and stand up for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And first order of business is public comment. We do have one public comment that I will read, and it is submitted by Melinda Person. Members of the Guilderland Board of Education, as the new school year begins, state lawmakers, including Governor Hochul, have brought increasing attention to the issue of cell phones and other distractions in schools. As they consider a statewide cell phone ban in schools, it makes sense for Guilderland to begin to take steps to prepare for this change and, if possible, be proactive in implementing a local solution. As a parent of 4 children spanning grades K through 6 in the Guilderland Central School District, I am writing you today to request that you institute a full ban on students using cell phones during the school day, with reasonable exceptions other than their use for instructional purposes and/or health and safety. Technology has undoubtedly changed the landscape of parenting and education. It has created many opportunities as well as unprecedented challenges for parents and educators alike as we try to navigate our new world. For students, it has sparked a mental health crisis, fractured attention spans, and contributed to a wave of learning and social emotional deficiencies. Consider the following. Common Sense Media reports that 97% of students use cell phones during the school day, which is spent primarily on social media, YouTube, and gaming. The Surgeon General's Advisory on Social Media and Youth Mental Health reports that 3+ hours per day on social media doubles the risk of poor mental health, including symptoms of depression and anxiety. Research shows students not using their cell phones during class wrote down 62% more information and scored higher on tests. Research has shown that adopting a phone-free school policy is one of the most impactful steps you can take to enhance student educational outcomes, behavior, and well-being. Feedback from teachers, parents, and students in phone-free schools has been overwhelmingly positive. Below are some of the tangible benefits. 1, less distractions. Teachers report improved focus, attention, and comprehension, leading to better skills and grades. 2, less cyberbullying, fewer fights, and less social media-related drama. 3, administrators report spending less time on discipline referrals. 4, increased engagement. Students engage more with their peers and teachers, both in and outside of the classroom. 5, improved attendance. 6, more reading. Phone-free schools report an increase in books checked out from their libraries. 7, improved teacher morale and retention. 8, less mid-class absenteeism. Students request to use the restroom less, and trips to the restroom are shorter because students aren't using that time to be on their phones. 9, more vibrant lunchrooms. Lunchrooms at phone-free schools are markedly louder because students are having face-to-face conversations with their peers. 10, less cheating. 11, less reported stress among students. School counselors are seeing a decrease in the rate of mental health-related student visits. In summary, a bell-to-bell phone-free policy with exceptions for instructional or health and safety purposes provides students with an average of 7 hours each school day to be fully present and free from the pressures and harms of phones and social media. This policy will help students restore connections and reclaim a critical period in their development. Our priority in Guilderland has always been to put the education and well-being of our students above all else. As a parent in this district, I believe a ban on cell phones will positively impact the school day and begin to protect students from the growing concern that cell phones have caused. Thank you in advance for your attention to this important matter. Sincerely, Melinda Person. I know I went over, but I was reading slowly at first, so. Okay. Are there any other public comments? Okay, so let's move on to the program report. I think we're going to save that. Never mind. Let's move on to the consent items. Can I get a motion to approve consent items 1 through 5? Okay, Katie, second Gloria. Are there any questions? This includes the meeting minutes from July 2nd, CPSE and CSE recommendations, personnel action, textbooks, and financials. Any questions, comments? Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes, what are we, 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0. Okay, and then we'll go on to 9? 9, 0. I forgot myself.
Everybody's here.
Sorry, I forgot myself. Yes, thank you. And now let's move on to informational items. That's you, Jim.
Yes, thank you. My first item is reminiscent of our public comment. I just wanted to provide an update on the recent visit from Governor Hochul. She was here on Monday, July 15th, to kick off a statewide listening tour right in our own district office. The meeting was focused on the issue of smartphones in schools. In addition to hosting the event, the Guilderland High School principal Mike Piscatelli and high school English teacher Aaron Whalen had the opportunity to share their perspectives on the impact of smartphones in our high school. Also in attendance to share their perspectives were representatives from the City School District of Albany and the Schoharie Central School District. Schoharie banned all electronic devices from the district, from the learning environment that includes smartphones, smartwatches, and earbuds. The event was also very well attended by the media, and the governor is exploring the possibility of introducing legislation to ban smartphones in schools. And I'll just point out, Mike Laster, our middle school principal, was also a participant in the hearing and got to listen in as well. So when Kelly and Blanca and I met on Friday to review the agenda, we thought this might be an opportunity to at least launch a conversation about smartphones and some initial feelings about their role or lack thereof within our school building. So I'll open it up.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we'd love to hear thoughts on this topic or ideas on how to address it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think from an educator standpoint, I think it's a great way to help to bring the students back to where they need to be focused. And I think that there really doesn't seem to be a way to help students develop socially and academically while the phones are still there.
Gloria?
This summer, I've been reading a number of publications and also a couple of books on this topic, and it's pretty clear to me that we need to do something. Talk about the data out there and the effect that it's having on our kids. I think we have to take this very seriously. It should be, I feel, our number one priority at this point, because every day that goes by is more hours that our kids are being affected by it.
Anyone else? Oh, Rebecca.
So I totally agree about the mental health crisis, particularly in the middle school age group of kids. I just need more, I think, education and more feedback from stakeholders about high school age students. I mean, part of our mission is to make students future ready, and cell phones are part of, they will be using cell phones in their lives. And I think a unilateral banning for a senior in high school is different than a unilateral banning for a sixth grader. And I think we have to kind of have an open mind about the developmental stages of adolescence. And I'm open to hearing from various people about that. I just had a question. Was it the superintendent from Schoharie that was present?
Yes, as well as some teachers.
And the president,
Okay.
Schoharie president.
Oh, great. Were there any issues when they enacted this ban about discipline? So were there increased referrals for kids, trying to sneak their phone in, or did that come up at all?
I think the initial action got a lot of feedback, both from the community and from students. I think that there were any discipline issues. It was more of less discipline issues of people trying to sneak. I know that happened in Bethlehem more so when they had their pouches and kids were trying to bring 2 phones and whatever. There was some of that initially, and then once people were used to it, it really did go away.
Tara, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm just curious, did they do any kind of a survey with the community before they put these bans on? Do you know if Like they sent a survey out or anything? I'm just curious, like, how they got the community feedback.
Dave Blanchard, who's the superintendent there, I know they had a community forum kind of presentation. I'm not sure when that fell in the sequence of the decision, if they did it ahead and then decided, or decided and then did the forum. I'm not sure about that because it's going back a couple years. But they brought together mental health providers, law enforcement, and others to talk through what their plan was and to address some of the concerns that the various stakeholders had with
Yeah.
giving up phones.
Because, I've heard from teachers that they support it, but they want to be able to, like, use the phone for an academic thing. So I would hate to say ban them completely, but, like, if you're doing a really cool chemistry experiment and you want to videotape it, it's a lot easier on your phone than your Chromebook. So that kind of a thing, I just, the whole don't throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. And I also agree with Rebecca in that middle school is very different than high school. And I think middle school, I'm fine with banning it in middle school, me personally. High school, it depends. Like I said, if they can pull it out for educational purposes, and then you got to put it right away, or whatever that we decide to do. I just think, we just need to explore a bunch
Can I
of
ask
different.
oh, go ahead, sorry.
I agree with Tara and Rebecca, but I would want to have our, people from our high school, the teachers and administration really weigh in on,
yeah.
the, you know what I mean? Like to what you're saying,
Yep.
the pros and cons and really what, the struggles are. Because I know that the middle school, there was attempt for a long time to teach responsible technology use, but it just, as more and more social media increases, I think that challenge becomes harder and harder. But with some maturity, you're right. We may hear that they're having the same exact issues at the high school. So I agree. I'd like to hear from them directly.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question along those lines, which is to what extent are we seeing the same kind of cyberbullying and issues that come up in the high school? Are they seeing similar trends in terms of behavioral issues and distractions and other areas where cell phones are causing, I should say, those problematic situations? So I think maybe those numbers would help. But just to speak to what Gloria mentioned about the different reading that she's been doing, I've been doing the same reading, and it speaks to a bigger issue that's affecting the biological development of children, with the specifically calling rewiring, to not quote too much, but to say that the phones are actually causing a situation in the brains of children that are negating development. So to that end, the children that have used these phones their entire lives are now high schoolers and college age. The impacts of the phones have affected them. So even though they're high schoolers, do we need to look at holistically how that might be affecting their development at this stage in the game? Do we as educators have to take a look at how we should help to mitigate those issues that have been caused, that they're dealing with because of years of the phone usage? That's more than just an immediate situation. It's long-term implications as well.
I was interested in the readings. A lot of it, the negative piece was the social media piece. I mean, when they talked about gaming and other things like that, they weren't as concerned, but the concern is with social media. So using the phone for educational reasons, absolutely. I would think we have to teach. This is our way of learning in the future. But in terms of social media, that's another question, and when it's appropriate and when it's
And
not.
just to say one more thing, I think there's also an equity issue because not all students have phones. So when they see that their peers have them, they do feel that they don't have that same opportunity. And in our society, it draws attention to that for those students who don't have them. So I think we also have to look into that as well. So as students being outcast and along social media as well, it does cause that to happen by nature of grouping and chat groups and however they associate themselves as well.
Even for students who have them, they have to have the right model. There's like this
yeah.
caste system.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that Kim and Judy and Kelly have an opportunity to share any thoughts.
It's a tough situation because phones are everywhere and little devices and all that, but I think whatever we can do to help our students maneuver through life with and without cell phones is important.
Yep, pretty much, I mean, nothing really, there's nothing I could really add that hasn't been said already. I mean, my biggest concern would be implementation and discipline. Like, that's because I know that there are issues with that to begin with other things. So that is, like, I'd really like to have a public forum and get more information, especially from the high school. Because that's what my worry is. Like, I'm not saying I'm against it by any stretch, but this is another thing that we're adding on to the teachers of, okay, well, so what happens if they don't actually put their phone away? Or that's where my concern is.
Kelly?
I don't think you can deny the research. Like, it's there, it's obvious. I think what needs to happen, I think if implemented properly with the right leadership and guidance and support given to our staff and our administration and our teachers, then it would be a successful program. I 100% agree with elementary school and middle school. And I don't think everybody I've spoken to is like, no, I want my kid to have their device in school because it's so great for them. They're definitely understand the challenges and see the negative impact on their own children and their own family. So I think a majority of people will be in support of it. I think it's just the implementation through like consistency throughout the organization, consistency in the classrooms, and making sure we set expectations for the kids and the teachers and the administration and be able to support them in that process. I'm sure it'll be a bumpy road, but I think it could be worked out.
I think consistency is going to have to be the key, because it can't be like across the board. I see you doing,
Right.
that's kind of where my concern
Yeah.
comes in, where it's like, well, one teacher may do this or another, but then the teacher doesn't feel that they're fully supported when they're trying to discipline,
Right.
because we're adding it to the.
This teacher did it, so why
Yeah.
can't I? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's got to be consistent.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those are reasons not to do it. I think it's
Oh, no,
definitely
I
things we
agree.
can
I think
overcome
No, it's,
with
I'm not
with
trying to
proper
give
planning.
reasons not
Yeah.
to do it, but we
Yeah.
have to be realistic in the sense that right now, our schools are already having issues with discipline and being able to maintain that and move forward. So we have to take, if we're going to look at this, which I think is a great idea, we have to take a realistic approach as to how we're going to support the teachers adding this huge
That's the
thing
key.
on.
Right, and that's where administration's going to have to help teachers to enforce whatever's going on in the classroom. And if someone's giving them a hard time, okay, go see Mr. Laster.
So, thank you, everyone. I agree with many of the points that have been made. I think some of the takeaways include hearing from our community. And so I think we need to discuss how we want to approach that, if it's a matter of a thought exchange or a public hearing or both. We need to identify who the stakeholders are first. And I'm wondering, Marie, does it maybe make sense to form a committee? Because we want to think through everything. What are your thoughts? I know we have a lot of committees. I don't really see this as being necessarily a subgroup of one that already exists, unless perhaps it's a subgroup of the safety and security, but I think we need to think it through and
What would be the role of the committee, I guess, would be my question.
to make a recommendation as to how we make a recommendation of the stakeholders that we want to solicit opinions from, and then what schools we think should be involved, to take into account the point that Tara brought up in terms of when it's appropriate to use, when it's not, things like that. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I don't think we need a committee.
Okay.
You know, I think my personal opinion that, and I think I said this to Melissa Hale Spencer, we were on the phone for a good hour talking about this.
Yes.
You know, every time we make a big decision here in Guilderland, we are always very conscientious about gaining input from our stakeholders, because you always learn something when you ask, so what do you think about X, Y, or Z? And there may be worries or concerns that we haven't thought of tonight that our community will have. So, I mean, I think there's a couple options here. You know, we could do a thought exchange. That's a very easy thing to do, to hear from our families and maybe from our staff. I probably would not do a thought exchange with our students. I might suggest that we do some other kind of data gathering from them, maybe in homerooms, maybe, you know, I don't know, we could think about that. But I would turn to our middle and high school leaders and staff, maybe building cabinets to do some of that kind of work. So I think we need a way to gather a lot of data. I think we need an opportunity to let people talk and listen and hear perspectives. I think there is a forum, Kelly, maybe you'll remember the date, that is happening on like September 20th with NYSET and NISCUS and a few other organizations where it's a community gathering to kind of hear about the research, the data. Mike, do you remember the date? I think 27th. I think you signed up because I think I clicked your request.
Where is this?
I'll have to get the information afterward. I should have brought the piece of paper with me, but I didn't. But I also think we should think about an opportunity for our community to come and ask questions and maybe have a panel of some sort where families and others could come and ask questions. For example, one of the things that came up, I think it was in the roundtable, was how nervous parents were in this age of lockdowns and, you know, the potential for very terrible things to happen in schools and wanting desperately to know that their child has a cell phone so they could reach him or her. And law enforcement will say that having that phone could put you in more jeopardy than not. And it could, with, you know, 1,500 youngsters on their phones, really impede law enforcement's efforts to come here and do what has to be done. So I can say that, but it's much more powerful coming from the chief of the Guilderland Police, who knows what it's all about. So, I mean, I'm happy to start working with our leadership team to put together some things that could happen relatively soon. None of this has to be, you know, months and months in the planning. Get some preliminary information from our community. And, you know, we could invite Dave Blanchard to be on our panel. We could invite Jody Monroe to be on our panel. These are superintendents of school districts that have made this move and have a little bit of experience, can, you know, highlight what are the pitfalls. And both of those school districts purchased these magnetic devices called Yonder pouches. This is really to Kim's point about enforcing this. You know, telling between the middle and high school, 3,000 kids to put your phone away. I mean, I don't know how we enforce that meaningfully without making that like the only job our adults do, which is counterproductive to why we're here. And those pouches are a tool where when you come into school, you put it in, it closes electronically, and you can't access it again until you demagnetize it through a little station at the door as you go out. There's a cost to those. They're probably going to get more expensive by stock. So would we want to think about and budget for that kind of device to help do this? And these are all really important questions I think we need to wrestle with. I mean, I've read the book as well that I think you're referring to about the anxious generation.
One of them, yeah.
And it's pretty, the first part of it in particular is pretty compelling.
So would students have an opportunity to attend the public forum then?
Yes, and I would say that we should hear from students. I just wouldn't necessarily do a thought exchange.
Understood. I know we've had issues in the past. I just want to make sure we hear from students
Yeah, absolutely.
because it will impact them. tremendously. And teachers, and would you do it separately for teachers and community members?
Probably, to be honest with you. It's different issues. And I will say, and I'm not sure this is well-known, but in both districts that I know of who have banned cell phones, it included staff. So staff cannot be using their cell phones during the day either. And that, I think, would be tough. I, for one, will hand mine over in a heartbeat. But, it's a part of all of our lives, so that would be, I think, a worthy conversation to have with our staff before we just say, you can't have your cell phone either.
One quick question. In the meeting with the governor, the legislation, was she specific on her thoughts on it? Was it like, I'm going to ban them throughout all schools, or are they like, well, I'm going to do this legislation to ban them in primary and secondary, but not high school? Is that part of the listening tour to like frame that legislation, or?
She has not, to my knowledge, said what the framework would be. I think the listening tour was designed to do exactly that, to get feedback from, various stakeholder groups. I think subsequently, I have heard she is contemplating legislation, but what's in that legislation, I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
On to less controversial issues.
Butterfly?
I'm waiting for my butterflies to open there.
But we'll be circling back to this for folks at home, right?
I'll put together a little plan and I'll work with our leadership team. My butterflies are not opening. Oh, there they go. We'll put together a little plan to engage the community in relatively short order on what to do with this. Does that make sense?
Please.
My next item is really to make note of the 25th anniversary of our butterfly station at FMS. On Thursday, August 1st, Farnsworth Middle School celebrated the 25th anniversary of the butterfly station. The event included live entertainment, crafts, games, food, and the highlight of the event was the dedication ceremony in which Dr. Alan Fierro, who is a retired middle school science teacher, and the individual who came up with the idea for the station was honored. Dr. Fierro was recognized with a plaque in the announcement that the butterfly station will be named the Alan Fierro Butterfly House. Guilderland students Chloe Tyson, Demetrio Chavone, and Brendan Chow unveiled a new sign that was designed and created by Chloe Tyson. I just want to recognize Joe Winchester, Lauren Fox, Mike Laster, who was circulating the crowd of about 1,000 people. Wow. It was a terrific event, and the weather cooperated. The butterfly station looked beautiful. All the flowers were in bloom. The kids were just thrilled. It was a great event.
I love the way the kids always are there. They're so excited and proud, and they've learned so much, and it's really wonderful. It's just, wow.
And I think Alan was very touched. He was completely surprised, which is always fun.
Nice.
All right, we are knocking at the door of the start of school. So here are some of the upcoming activities planned as school draws close. On Tuesday, September 3rd, we'll have opening day for staff. This will begin at 7:30 a.m. in the high school with coffee, welcoming remarks, service recognition, and introduction of new staff. Program itself will begin at 8 o'clock. All board members are welcome to come. And I know Blanca's going to have some welcoming remarks for all of our staff. Kindergarten welcome is also underway. Our elementary schools will be inviting, or have been inviting, new kindergarten students to drop off supplies, meet their teachers, and maybe even board a school bus. Specific details from each building outlining this information have been sent out to parents and guardians by the building principals. And then we have some orientations. The middle school 6th grade orientation is Wednesday, September 4th from 8:45 to 10 a.m. And the high school orientation for 9th graders and new students is on Wednesday, September 4th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we will be welcoming back all of our students on Thursday, September 5th. And this week, we are wrapping up our summer programs. Thursday marks the end of the summer school programming for our older students. There were 83 students enrolled in the regional summer school that was held at Niskayuna High School, with quite a few more students scheduled as walk-in Regents exam takers. Those exams are scheduled to take place next Monday and Tuesday, the 19th and 20th. This week also marks the conclusion of our extended school year program for students with disabilities that was hosted at Guilderland Elementary School. And it also included programming for our English as a New Language program this year as well. And then I was going to announce the successful release of our butterflies on Friday, August 9th at 9:30, but if you looked out your window at the time, no one was flying anywhere. So we had to cancel that event. So, but thanks to all of our faculty and staff who worked so hard this summer, and we had just a great summer.
Could I, sorry, I just wanted to say that the 9th, the orientation is on Wednesday, the 4th. Sorry, I had someone
Oh,
mouthing from the audience.
all right. Thank you for that, Kim.
Thank you. Okay, and now board president information. Mrs. Judy Slack has submitted her resignation from the board effective September 11th, 2024. Judy, we are very, very sad to see you go, but we so appreciate your dedication.
Thank you.
To our town.
I have enjoyed it, and I don't have the energy. And
Understood. We feel like you've been wonderful, but you've also done your due diligence and then some, so.
yeah. And I thought by retiring at this time of year, you get somebody on the board who can go through the processes and learn.
Thank you for thinking of that,
How many
Judy.
years? 12? You say it was?
16.
16 years.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, yes. And so your last official meeting will be next time, correct?
Will be next time. yes,
Great.
And thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I talked to Melissa, and she's doing a huge article.
Oh, we saw it.
As she should.
Please keep it. She said no. So, I don't know.
I think I
That'll be
saw it
in-
already yesterday,
yeah,
yep, last
This week's
night.
enterprise.
Oh, is it out already?
It was on the electronic,
Pardon me?
it was already sent out electronically
Oh,
last
yeah,
night,
yeah,
yeah.
I saw a
It's
little bit of
wonderful.
it, yeah.
So then that leads us to discuss how we want to go, right, Marie, about filling Judy's spot. There's two options. One is to have a special election. I would like to point out that does cost us some money. And then two, which is what we've done in the past, and it's how we got our wonderful board member, Rebecca Butterfield, is to interview folks and appoint somebody. So what are we feeling like we want to do? What are our thoughts?
I
Katie?
feel like it would be good to follow the same practice that we followed in the past and interview people for an appointment.
Great. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of nods. Okay, everybody agrees with that? Easy peasy. All right, so we'd like to do that. Do we need a motion or anything, or what do we do?
I don't know that we need a motion per se, but I think Mrs. Livingston and I probably need a little direction, like should we send out something to the community seeking
Yeah, that's what we-
letters of interest
Yep.
to fill the
Have a due date.
vacant spot? And then when would the board like to do the interviews? So that will help us.
Right. We did this before, so we
Yes.
have an idea of the timeframe. Maybe we could look back, because it seemed to work really well.
Yes.
And then we had whoever sent letters in come in, and we had question, answer kind of situation. Yeah.
So maybe I should ask the question, is the goal to have the new person ready to go at the October board meeting?
That would be awesome, but.
That would be, I think that should be our goal.
Why don't we work backwards from that?
Okay.
That's two,
That would be great.
almost, that's what it was, yeah, that's a long time. Well, a month and a half.
Right. Thank you. And then we'll move on to Andrew for school business management action.
Thank you. I have a number of items
Yeah.
here for consideration tonight. The first is, as we close out the 23-24 fiscal year, a number of general fund transfers.
Oh, so can I get a motion to accept the general, or to make the general fund transfer? Okay, so Judy, second Kelly. Any Questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 9-0.
Thank you. Our next two items are confirming the tax rolls and levy process. What we are going to do is, after a motion that is seconded to consider the resolution to confirm tax rolls and authorize the levy, I will share a presentation going into detail about where we're at this year, and then we will come back for the vote and
Okay,
discussion.
great, thank you. Can I get a motion? Tara, second Rebecca. No, I think they have it here.
So in talking about our current year school tax rate, I want to go back to the property tax report card that we filed when we approved the 24-25 budget back in the spring. And I want to draw attention to the item B, levy to support the library debt if applicable. We are one of a small number of school districts in New York State that have a school district library that in the current year is spending money on debt for a capital project that was completed. The last time we had done this, it was treated differently under state law. So we spent a lot of time this spring working with our financial advisors and council and just getting a lot of, and state agencies, state planning from Questar, who supports business officials and districts, understanding how we approach this library debt. And so in the property tax report card, we see that we have a levy to support the total budgeted amount. That is what we are spending on our school budget, and a levy to support library debt, which gives us a total school year tax levy. That is, the debt for the library goes in the school tax levy. The levy for regular operations of the library goes into the library's levy, and those are two separate things. Library capital debt, and I have the SED guidance here, taxes levied by a school district for debt service and expenses for a facility used to house the school district public library are levied on behalf of the library, are subject to the library's tax cap and not subject to the school district's tax cap, and should not be construed as part of the school district's tax levy for purposes of tax cap calculations. So when doing our tax cap, we file it twice. We file it first with OSC, which is the Office of the State Comptroller, and then we file it with SED, the Education Department. When we file with OSC, we do not include the library debt projections as part of the levy. When we file with SED and the property tax report card, as we saw in the last slide, we do. So what that means is, depending on which tax cap filing you look at, we have different tax levies and tax caps. In both calculations for 24-25, our levy is below the tax cap. So we are levying below the allowable amount. In the comptroller filing, that's a straight number. What we levied last year are school district's exclusions, and then what we're levying for the current year. In the property tax report card, we add it into the levy, but then it's an exclusion, so we subtract it right back out when figuring out the cap. So what this means is the school district levy is more complicated to understand than in previous years. So this is a chart I showed last year and to highlight the impact of inflation versus taxes and the tax cap. The black line, which has that big spike, is inflation. Inflation has come down significantly from the peak, but is still well above the school district tax levy increase. The purple line, or at 3.35%, is the levy that we will be issuing, but that includes that debt for the library. 2.74% is the levy increase for that school district levy. Again, this is all complicated, trying to lay it out in the interests of transparency, because we, again, levy for the library debt, we pay for the library debt, but it's not part of our tax cap. In other words, it's not our everyday school district's expenses. So with that, we're going to move into more typical presentation about the allocation of the levy between towns. For all of the figures for the rest of the presentation, I am using that levy, including library debt, since that is what we will be issuing and what taxpayers will be supporting. So all the figures for the rest of the presentation are based upon that. In New York State, assessments are not done each year, right? So there are some towns that go years and decades between assessments and some towns that don't. So how do we compare apples to oranges when you have, a property assessed in 1987 and a property assessed in 2022? We equalize. So the state determines an equalization rate that is applied to whatever the most recent assessment was, to try to create a full market value for each town, so we can compare sort of the apples to apples rather than apples to oranges. Looking at the tax rates then, what we look at is we have 4 towns that we distribute our levy across. We first ask how much full market property is within each of those towns, and then the percentage of full market property a town has is the percentage of levy that is allocated to that town, right? So if Town A has 75% of the value, they're going to pay 75%. They're going to provide 75% of the levy through taxes. And then within each town, the levy is divided across the equalization, or across the assessed value, which gives us the tax rate. Tax rates can be higher or lower because, again, if assessments are decades old, they're probably much lower than a current assessment would be. So the tax rate will be that much higher. So Guilderland was the most recently assessed town. That was 5 years ago. Bethlehem 10 years ago. New Scotland 18 years ago. And Knox 27 years ago. So the taxable assessed value is likely to be, even if the values were equal, would be higher generally in towns with more recent assessments. We see that 82% is the amount applied to Guilderland, whereas 38% is the amount applied to Knox, and then Bethlehem and New Scotland, which are older, have 71 and 70%. This yields the full market value of these towns. So the 3.9 billion in taxable assessed value in Guilderland, full market value would equate to 4.8 billion. And that is what's used to determine the share of the levy allocated to that town. We get the equalization rates in the town late spring, early summer. That is what is applied to those final assessments that we get at the close of the fiscal year, or start of the next fiscal year, both the assessments and the exemption summary. So for example, the school district last year passed an exemption for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers. That was applied to this year's tax rolls, so it comes out in the exemption summary. And then all of those data are put into our formulas for allocating taxes. This is the most important slide, this table, to understand the change in one town's taxes from year 1 to year 2. And it's these 2 variables that we want to know is how much property value is there, so the taxable valuation. So what is the change in the assessed value? For example, Guilderland has a decrease in taxable value because of all the tax certiorari cases we've gone through, right? Those assessment challenges, we had some large commercial entities successfully challenged to varying degrees their assessments. The judicial outcome of that process lowered the assessed value within those towns. If a town's taxable valuation is lower, it will increase their tax rate. And then that's within a town. Between towns, it's the relative share of property, that full market value. The more full market value a town has, the greater its share of levy. Right? So if your town has 10% this year and 11% next year, it's going to pay that additional 1 percentage point of the levy. So when we go through each of the towns, we're going to look at changes in taxable valuation, changes in share of the levy. This is a slightly decreasing line. it's measured in billions, so it's a significant decrease, even though it looks flat to sort of the eye. 2020-21, we had $4.4 billion of taxable property, or assessed property in the school district, and now it's $4.24 billion. So this is almost all because of tax certiorari cases. But we look at each town's assessed value. This is where Guilderland, where almost all of the tax cert cases have been, all the significant tax certiorari cases have been. Guilderland has a real decline. The 0% is the middle line. All three non-Guilderland towns are generally above that. Guilderland is the town that has experienced decreases in assessed value each year. The big drop in 22-23, mostly due to a change in the assessment update to Crossgates before the finalization of that lawsuit. Looking at 5-year change between towns, 5 years ago, Guilderland had a share of 92.68% of the levy. This year it's 91.61% of the levy. So the other towns have to make up a greater share of the levy. So all three towns, Bethlehem, New Scotland, and Knox, have experienced a larger share of the levy distributed among their property, even though they have a relatively small share of the overall property. And I put the table here again to refer back to. If your share of the value is increasing, you have a higher tax rate. If your share of the value is decreasing, you have a lower tax rate. If your valuation is decreasing, you have a higher tax rate. So Guilderland is the town that's been that middle table with decreasing valuation, but also a decreasing share of the levy. So those are both at play in terms of the tax rate. Now, when we estimated the tax rates in April, we had not included the library levy debt in the calculation, which is why our projections are going to be, in this case, 0.83% off. It's not that taxes have gone up. Our levy is in line with what we'd expected, but we are treating the library debt in the school levy. So that 3.57%, and true for the next three slides, almost all of the large increase between what's projected reflects the library debt, not changes to our budget or our levy. And then in the towns with smaller shares of property, the impact of having the larger share of the levy distributed because of the decrease in assessed value or full value in Guilderland yields the higher tax rates than the town of Guilderland. So Guilderland's tax rate increase is 3.57%. Bethlehem is 5.55%. And this comes from that larger share of the levy, even though they have an increased in taxable valuation, which gives you more property to spread the levy across, they're responsible for more of the levy. Very, very similar numbers in New Scotland, where the larger share of the levy offsets the increase in taxable assessed value. Knox did not have a similar increase in the share of the levy, so their tax rate is not grown as much. Finally, this is the 5-year tax rate summary by town. And we see the difference between the top line and the next three lines is really a reflection of tax certiorari cases in the town of Guilderland, decreasing taxable assessed value, so increasing the share of the levy that is borne by the other three towns. And that, there's a lot of fluctuation here, but that's the general trend in this chart.
Any questions or comments? Rebecca, you usually have a good one? No? Okay. So I actually have one, Andrew. In the Altamont Enterprise on August 2nd, there's an article that discusses Guilderland property owners looking to slash tax bills. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And it, right, it talks about 60 properties asking to lower their assessment from 43.7 million to 14.2 million. So my question to you is, this could change again, right? It's kind of fluid based on this, and there's no statute of limitations on this?
It depends, just a little bit, well, I'll just, it will not affect the tax bills that go out this month.
Right.
The challenges to the assessment would result in refunds. So if you have a property that's assessed at $1 million, and you say, no, it's worth $500,000, your tax bill this year will be based on the $1 million assessment, and then the process can play out in a number of ways. Sometimes there have been a few assessments where we agree with their claim and we don't challenge it. There's some where we negotiate, there's some where we maybe cooperate with the town on a joint defense. But overall, and we are just starting to process these because we literally got one of the claims today that was mentioned in that article. We actually got the copy of the filing. They are nowhere near on the scale of the last wave. So yes, they would have an influence, but it would not be reflected in any of the charts.
Okay.
Even if they were to be ultimately fully successful, which is unlikely, it would be meaningful, but not nearly the scale of the last round.
That's good news. Please tell me when to panic. Okay, any other questions? In that case, we did the motions already, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 9-0.
Let me
Back
just-
to you, Andrew.
I'm just pulling my notes back up. All right. The next item is the motion for the tax warrant related to the levy that was just authorized.
Okay, can I get a motion? Kelly, second, Nina? Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item is a resolution that authorizes to participate in cooperative bidding with Capital Region BOCES for goods and services for health, safety, and risk management.
Okay, can I get a motion? Judy, second, Kim? Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item is a series of service agreements that are continuations of existing agreements for programs and services for students with disabilities and students whose needs are best met through alternative education programs.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please? Nina and Kelly? No questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
So these are the ones, I'm just abstaining from letters B, H, I, J. Otherwise, I'm yes.
Okay. So passes 8-0. Wait. B passed 8-0 then.
So they were either 9-0 or 8-0, depending on the abstentions.
Okay.
Is that correct?
So,
I think they're good.
gotcha. Okay. So then this one passed 9-0. Okay.
So next, I have two shared service agreements with school districts. One is with Waynesburg Central School District for an eligible student with disabilities to attend a program in our school district. And the second is a transportation agreement with Scotia Glenville for shared transportation services.
Okay, motion made by Gloria, second Kim. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item for your approval are the UPK contracts for 24-25 school year with All Saints Catholic Academy, Capital District YMCA, Christ the King Early Childhood Center, and Mater Christi School.
Okay, can I get a motion, please? Rebecca, second. Tara? Any questions or comments? Nope. Okay, all those in favor? Aye, passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item are two internship agreements with SUNY Plattsburgh and SUNY Potsdam for experiences for their college students.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept? Kelly, second Katie. No questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Passes 8-0, right? Didn't you say BHINJ
But for the previous.
for that previous one? Okay, passes 9-0, thank you.
Our next item is our final 23-24 BOCES contracts and our preliminary 24-25 service contracts.
Okay, can I get a motion? Kelly, second Nina. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
9-0.
Thank you. Our next item is a continuation of our agreement for a 5-school cooperative collaboration to field an ice hockey team, so ice hockey cooperative agreement.
Okay, can I get a motion? Kelly, second Kim. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item is appointing Lifetime Benefit Solutions as our new third-party administrator for flexible spending plan administration.
Okay, and can I get a motion? Tara, second Kelly. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
9-0.
Thank you. My next item is establishing school breakfast and lunch prices for the 24-25 school year. These are all continuations of the existing prices from 23-24.
Okay, can I get a motion? Gloria, second Judy. Any questions or comments? My comment is I'm glad that they're staying the same and not going up. Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item is the BOCES classroom rental agreement. This is the same rental agreement or rental needs that were met in the last school year with BOCES.
Okay, can I get a motion? Nina, second Kim. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item is declaration of surplus or obsolete property. There's not a formal requirement that we do that, but we generally bring it to the board whenever we want to dispose of property.
Okay, can I get a motion? Gloria, second Kelly. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item is a request for emergency pesticide application to address poison ivy at 5 school buildings in the district.
Can I get a motion? Rebecca, second Tara. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My final item is a number of donations, an alto saxophone and a tenor saxophone from high school business teacher Joan McGrath, a monetary donation from the class of 66 for the Gildan High School Library in honor of its first librarian, Dolores Ropke, 6 binders for Westmere Elementary School donated by the State Department of Environmental Conservation, as well as monetary donations for our social service dog program from Accent Commercial Furniture, ComSource, Turner Construction, and Day Automation Systems.
Okay, and can I get a motion to accept the donations? Gloria, second Katie. Any questions or comments? I have a comment. I believe we are to thank Cliff Nooney for assisting us in obtaining the donations for the therapy dogs.
That is correct. He's
So-
done a great job.
Thank you, Cliff Nooney. You are a jack of all trades and an amazing human being. And thank you to everyone else that made donations. And I think, did I even vote? I don't remember. No, okay, so all those in favor? All right, passes 9-0. That was a lot, Andrew. I feel like you've gone over your quota personally for a meeting.
Start of the school year.
All right, Superintendent.
All right, thank you. My first item is a request to approve our emergency response plans for 2024, 2025. We reviewed these earlier this evening in executive session.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept the emergency action plans? Katie, second Kim. Any questions or comments? My comment is thank you because those are very involved. They take a lot of work and commitment, so thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 9-0.
My next item is request to approve our district-wide school safety plan for 2024, 2025. We presented this plan at the July 2nd board meeting. The plans have been posted on our website and been made available for public comment, and I bring them to you for your approval this evening.
Okay, can I get a motion? Rebecca, second. Tara? Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Passes 9-0.
And my last item is a recommendation to approve a settlement agreement that reads, "It is hereby resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the resignation of William Dean Keneally, effective August 13th, 2024, is hereby accepted, and the agreement between Mr. Keneally and the district dated July 10th, 2024, is hereby approved."
Can I get a motion to accept the agreement? Okay, Gloria, second. Judy? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Passes 9-0. Oh, and now we're back to me. Okay, so board president action. So we have to, 1 second, guys, sorry. Phew, there were so many of these. Okay. So we are looking to adopt A through C. Can I do it like that, or do you want me to?
A through O.
A through O.
Four
Okay.
policies.
4 policies, okay. Can I get a motion to adopt A through O? Katie, second. Kim, any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 9-0. And then the impartial hearing request. Was that part of A through O?
No, that's separate.
That's
I'm happy to
separate.
read the resolution if you'd like.
Thank you.
So this is a request for an impartial hearing that reads, "Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes and approves the commencement of an impartial hearing in the matter of a student with a disability, student number 76094, and approves a due process complaint dated August 13th, 2024, in accordance with the regulations of the Commissioner at 8201.8, a copy which shall be incorporated by reference into the minutes of this meeting. And be it further resolved that the board directs its attorneys, Shaw, Pearlson, May, and Lambert, LLP, to promptly serve such due process complaint on the parents of student number 76094 in accordance with relevant law, regulation, and terms of the retainer agreement by and between the law firm and the district."
Thank you, that was a mouthful. Can I get a motion to accept that? Okay, and so we have Kim and second Kelly. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 9-0. And then the second part would be the impartial hearing officer appointment. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Guilderland Central School District approves the appointment of Jeffrey Guerra for a special education impartial hearing pursuant to the board's compensation policy and pursuant to the regulations of the Commissioner of the New York State Education Department, Section 200.5J32. Okay, can I get a motion? Rebecca. Second, Nina. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Passes 9-0. Okay, we are on to board committee reports. And I think we've only had one committee meet so far, right? That's audit, so take it away, Rebecca.
So we met yesterday. We approved the audit committee charter, which we do once a year, as well as the claims audits from March to June. We also reviewed the Medicaid reimbursement audit from 23-24. This had been last reviewed in 14-15, and we did demonstrate some interval improvement in a few areas. Some of that improvement was attributed to a new process of outsourcing the Medicaid reimbursement procedure to BOCES and using a standardized software. There were some areas of improvement that were recommended by the audit. I'm going to hesitate to bring those up right now, only because we haven't reviewed the corrective action piece yet. So we're going to do that at the next meeting, and then we will bring it to the board thereafter.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that moves us on to board ideas and sharing. Does anyone have anything they want to add? I do, but I'll let anybody else go first. Okay. I had spoken to Marie about the possibility of a board retreat. We haven't had one since I've been on the board, and I think it would be, especially with new members, it would be, and new roles, it would be great to have a retreat where we learn together. How do folks feel about that? And Marie has come up with some great topic suggestions. Do you want to share them, or? First, how do we feel about the possibility of a retreat? It's not a spa, like outing. Right?
It's like
Yes.
in a boardroom for a couple of hours.
Yes, it's basically where we learn together. Yes, we're not,
We're not camping, right?
right.
Okay.
Yes, there's,
No sleeping bags at
no,
tents.
we're not going to Fiji either. It's like here.
Well, when we were meeting to talk about the agenda on Friday, I just had a couple thoughts. One is kind of a tried and true, especially when we have new board members and board members in new roles, to have an opportunity for our school attorney to come in and just talk about kind of the basics, roles and responsibilities of board members, things like conflicts of interest and confidentiality and, all of the kind of the fiduciary responsibilities that come with being on a school board. That was one idea. The second one was, again, we have a lot of new people. We also have a brand-new attorney for support for the district in special education, and we met her ever so briefly today. One of the reasons why we went with this particular law firm was because during the interview process, they really talked a lot about being able to provide professional development to the district as a whole, helping our administrators, helping our faculty understand roles and responsibilities. And by an extension, the Board of Education has a pretty significant role, and we think about our work around serving students with disabilities. So I thought if we could invite her to come in and do kind of an educational session for us. She's got, a different, kind of a fresh set of eyes. So those were two ideas. I know they're not nearly spa-like.
It's not camping.
And it's not camping, but it's kind of baseline professional development for the board done together, because I know many of you are going to go off to do the workshops sponsored by NYSBA or BOCES, but that's learning with others as opposed to learning as a team, which is often more powerful. But I'm certainly, this is your retreat, open to other ideas. Those were just two ideas that came to light.
Great. I think they're great ideas, especially the special ed attorney coming in. Any other suggestions?
Would it be a good idea for us to wait for our replacement, or should we go ahead? Should we wait
yeah.
till October, or is that too much to ask?
I think we should. I don't think we're in a huge rush.
No, I think that's a good idea.
Right?
Fall, early winter.
What are your
type of
thoughts?
thing.
Well, the reality of scheduling the 9 of you and 2 attorneys in short order is maybe the most challenging thing we're going to talk about tonight.
Well, if we pick the date now, we won't put it on our calendar.
So, I'm happy to reach out to them. I need to get a sense, do you want to do an evening kind of thing? We could bring in a light supper and then have both of them come and do 2 hours. Okay. An evening, do we want to stick with Tuesdays? Is that generally good?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I think Tuesdays.
I don't have any.
Why don't I start with Mr. Honeywell and Ms. Harris and see what their availability is, and then we'll go from there.
Great, thank you. And if anyone else, no one else has any other ideas, right? If so, send an email.
Public comment number 2.
Oh, no, we didn't. Do we have any other public comments? Okay, great. Then I think we're done. I'm excited to use this.
Forgot to use
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Do the motion to end.
Motion, shoot. Okay, motion. Tara, second Kelly.
All those
All those in favor? 9-0.
Okay, go.
Yay.
Good job.